I think it is important that we put into perspective some of the drivel which we heard this morning from the opposite side. And I am really, Madam Speaker, very, very surprised that the member for number 2 took whatever amount of time she took to distress the ears of this parliament and the ears of the people of this country, because that is really what transpired. And I will say this, Madam Speaker. The member for number 2 made certain comments about information being leaked, so she claims, alleges, from this government side about individuals and other similar statements. I therefore want to ask, Madam Deputy Speaker, if the honorable member for number 2 accepts what she said to be fact, why then is she, or did she indicate that the effort of the government to bring a bill of this magnitude, of this import, to this parliament, to govern and to change what she says is an aberration on the part of members on this government side and other persons? Why then was there such an aggravated objection? It makes one wonder if there's any integrity in anything that the member for number 2 thinks or said in this honorable house. Because if the government is being castigated for divulging information, and the very government is saying that let us put into place legislation which will make divulging information without the consent of the persons whose information it is an offense, I would have thought that the member for number 2 would have supported the government and welcomed this bill this morning. And that, I think, is really the thrust of what I want to or why I decided to speak. Because we have sought over the years, and I suppose all the years of this country, to find ways of bringing into force bits of legislation which will provide for the better governance of the people of the country, for providing better guidance to the way people behave in community, whether it is in respect of criminal behavior, whether it is in effect of doing business. These are the reasons why governments exist. We don't exist to engage in frivolous and useless debate. And laws are there for that purpose, to guide and manage how people act in community. So therefore, the honorable member for number 2 and the thrust she had in her presentation this morning clearly could not have been serious, and I don't even think she believed anything that she said this morning. Madam Speaker, there was also the talk of the discussions, for want of a better word, in the media, and the government seeking to stifle freedom of expression. Madam Deputy Speaker, the abuse of the media, or the use of the media to abuse people and to engage in the dissemination of matters which are clearly not geared to elevate the standard of our thinking, clearly are not to be continually encouraged. It creates too much of a divisiveness in the communities and in our country. And as we are progressing as a nation, clearly legislation brought to the House to alter, to change, to direct how we engage in our discourse and how we engage in doing business should be seen and ought to be seen as efforts by the government to engage in encouraging our people to become more mature in the way we engage among ourselves in society and in business and in government. And that cannot be bad. That yesterday the Freedom of Information Bill, and now today bringing a substantive bill to deal with how data, information gathered on individuals, gathered by government or by private sector entities is handled, must be encouraged and the government must be congratulated for it. And I say that also because if, Madam Deputy Speaker, the effort in 2006 to have tabled the Freedom of Information Bill was a serious effort, a serious attempt or concept by the former government, then why today or that this time they are now being so critical of it? Now, if I were advising them, because I've been in government and I've been in opposition, and there's a way to oppose and there's a way not to oppose. If the government is bringing something which is good for the country, I think all of us as representatives of the people,
and we have done that in opposition, yes,
forgetting our political affiliation, not that there's not the freedom to associate or to believe what one wants to believe, but if in 2006 the government of the day decided that it was good to bring a particular bill, or any bill for that matter, to the House, why today does that same bill find opposition or serious criticism when the substance of the bill is the same as it was in 2006? And these are the things which we need to get our people to understand and to begin to turn around in their minds and to make decisions on. So today the Data Protection Bill comes, and Section 3 speaks very succinctly of what it's supposed to do. On page 5, the objects of the bill or the act when it is passed. The objects of this act are to safeguard personal data processed by public bodies and private bodies in an era in which technology increasingly facilitates the processing of personal data by balancing the necessity of A, processing personal data by public bodies and private bodies, and B, safeguarding personal data from unlawful processing by public bodies and private bodies, and to promote transparency and accountability in the processing of personal data. I think that simple and single clause encapsulates the magnitude of the reason for this bill. The other sections of the bill provides more detail on how it should be done. What is expected of those who are handling such data, how they should treat with that data. And I believe, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the effort of this government to bring this bill in conjunction with other bills relating to good governance is part of the government's thrust to change or try to change the culture of our people, bring our people into a state of mind and a state of behavior so that we find more professional ways of engaging in our societies and our communities, our business places, our government, when we are dealing with people. Because even as we're talking about data, that is date of birth, different other things, professionals, what is your qualification, what is your asset, what your ownership, what other things if you have illnesses and all of those good things, those are the data, where you live, and so on. Those really are, in fact, only the manifestation of people. Human behavior and human activity. And I am satisfied, Madam Deputy Speaker, that the effort of this government with bringing yesterday the bill with the Freedom of Information, and now today the data protection bill is part of that effort to change the culture and the way in which our people behave here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It also doesn't just speak of individuals at the individual level. It speaks of the people who are managing the information, who have it in their possession, to whom it is given. How would any one of us like if we went to an institution and we provided information to that institution, and in that institution there's someone who is gullible enough, who is able to be manipulated by somebody else, who has a grudge against somebody else, to provide that information which could be used to the detriment of the data subject. And this is what we are trying to do, because we could very well have said, manage the data, make sure it is kept safe, make sure it is secure. But then there are penalties, there are offenses associated, and those are set out in the legislation. So it goes beyond, Madam Speaker, just having the legislation setting out what should be done, and also it requires, in my humble submission to this Honorable House, the development of a culture of people acting properly, the propriety of our behaviors, and where professionals, there's lawyers or bankers or commercial enterprise owners, operators, where they are concerned, it requires that they handle the information they get on individuals, on government, or whomever. They must act professionally, and they must act with responsibility and with the confidentiality which is required to protect the data and that information. Madam Deputy Speaker, I said, that is the emphasis which I want us to add to the technicalities of this bill. What really could this bill do for St. Kitts and Nevis and the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, both government, as its public bodies, statutory corporations, private entities, banks, telephone companies, whomever? What could it do for us? What is it supposed to do for us? And I am forwarding that it should begin to get us to act differently in a more matured, professional, and in a way which gets people to understand that when you come to St. Kitts and Nevis, you're dealing with a maturing and a mature society of people who are serious about nation building, who are serious about doing business, who are serious about attracting investment. who are serious about doing things right. That is really my thrust, Madam President, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I believe if we were to look, as I said, behind just the letter and look at what it is, what it can accomplish for us and what we can accomplish through it, through the practice of these bits of legislation, that our country would be a much better place. And all of the rancor and that we heard this morning and we heard yesterday, simple matters being blown out of all proportion. And it doesn't speak well for us as a people, or as people representing the people, as the young people out there listening and looking on, that we are bound by our oath and our office to show an example and to lead and to direct what they think and what they do without coercion, but by example and by proper dictate. Madam Deputy Speaker, I wish therefore to say to this Honorable House that I support this bill, Data Protection Bill 2015. Well, it would be 2018 because we're bringing it back after a hiatus of some 2 or 3 years, because I think it has in it the makings of a framework, the making of the parameters within which, if we practice and are guided and uphold the dictates of the legislation, that our country could be a better place and we could show to the world that we are small, but we are prepared to do things and do them well and do them right, as we are part of the international community of nations. Madam Deputy Speaker, I thank you for your indulgence. Thank you.
Stay up to date with news, programs, and activities of the government with SKNIS. Like us on Facebook. Listen to us on SoundCloud. Follow us on Twitter. And watch our videos on YouTube. Connect with us today. SKNIS, St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service.